Over 100 years ago, Boar's Head opened its doors with a different set of rules. No cutting corners, no compromises. Exceptional Boar's Head products began to appear. Our deluxe ham, oven gold turkey, and ever roast chicken, made to standards rarely found in the deli business today. Of course, Boar's Head isn't sold everywhere. Only in stores that share our high standards and slice our products fresh at the deli. Boar's Head. Compromise elsewhere.
Hello, everybody. Another Friday night in New Orleans. This is Alyne Pustanio, and you are listening to the Supernatural Substation. Many things just went on just now, Dean. I had to put a dog out. I forgot to mute my other mic.
Oh.
For those of you who are keeping track, wherever you are, it is the 11th of August, 2017. So you got to make that journal entry, the diary of day 17, and all I had to eat was Spam. Then that's the day. And you can listen to us while you eat Spam. And as you hear, we are on the United Public Radio Network, an iHeart Network affiliate. You heard Dean in the background.
Hey.
Hey, what's up? And
Zeke
the zombie is here. Zeke, what is it? What's up? Yeah, okay. He needs brains. Anyway, all I need is like one of them pulling those chickens and, the symbol in the back. And I could be comedy relief. I hear Dean giggling over there. Okay, well, we're pretty much close to on time. That's what we were just talking about with the man, Joe himself. So
big dog.
All right. So as later in the program, about a half hour from now, we're going to be joined by Lynn Russell, who is a near-death experience survivor. She is the author of The Wonder of You, which I don't know. I can't see the full title in front of me right now, but it's all about your experiences and how they can help.
The near-death experience tells you about yourself.
About yourself. That's it. Okay, that's fine. I kept The Wonder of You in there. I mean, I'm doing good. Okay, with no prompt. So, but anyway, as usual, we always want to talk about something else. And so this thing crossed my Facebook, and I reposted it and tagged all the appropriate people. This is, it's from the Daily News, New York, the New York Daily News. And it is exclusive to the New York Daily News. I don't know why, but a decaying foot horrifies grieving family as they bury grandfather. So if you look at the picture, there's this beautiful blue coffin with the spray and everything, and it's in where it's going to be for eternity. And then there's this, if you look right above it, there's this big old foot resting on it. And I mean, it does look like, hey, I'm resting my feet. But evidently, mourning gave way to the macabre at a New Jersey cemetery where a beloved grandfather's burial uncovered a moldering bare foot from an adjoining grave. The devastated family of Cleveland Butler, 85, received a second and unexpected jolt when the body part appeared from the dirt as his blue casket was lowered into the ground at Mount Holiness Memorial Park. Yeah. I mean, if the thing would have kept kicking and stuff like that, would have lifted
it doesn't look that old.
I know, that's the thing. There is a photograph, if you find this online at the New York Daily News site. There's a photograph of the foot sticking out, and his daughter, the man's daughter that they were trying to bury, said this was a very traumatizing situation. First dealing with losing my father, and then this. There were some people who were commenting and making kind of light of it, but you really don't, want to go to graveside burying your dad or your grandfather, realizing, you're leaving him there in the grave, and see this foot, fall out, come out, or whatever, sticking out next to him. So, people don't really, down here we have so many above ground options and mausoleums and then the old family crypts and stuff like that because of the swampy, high water table that we have. But this apparently happens frequently up where they've got to put body on top of body, or at least they break up the remains and everything. But it would be terrible, if that's what you're doing. You're there to mourn your family member, and you look down and you see a foot. Although I suppose a foot would be better than a hand. I don't think I could handle a hand, because it would be like, oh, he's coming out, he's coming out of his grave.
How does that even happen?
Well,
unless the guy was not in a casket.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I mean, down here, I'm looking at the picture, but it looks like there's some sort of a board maybe under the foot. But down here in our tombs, our mausoleum vaults and in the other vaults, when, you have to make a burial and let's say it's a head-to-head vault, and that can fit at any time 2 coffins, right? But when you have, if you have 2 coffins in there, to prepare for the next burial, the sextons will go in, and whichever coffin is, in the best condition, they'll take the other body out and put them both in a coffin to make room for the new coffin or the new burial. So at any time, unless it's something unexpected, like a tragedy, at any time there's 2 coffins in there head to head, or there should be. And in the back of the vault is the receiving vault, where they'll push, when they break up coffins and stuff like that, they'll push that and sometimes the remains behind it to catch in a big, a general pit sort of underneath, which is, when you think about it, it's like you pay $10,000 for a funeral and then they bust it all up and throw them down in the pit. We should have all had just mass burial. Mm-hmm. But this put me in mind of our famous Bury Yourself cemetery.
Yes,
Holt Cemetery. And these family members of this guy, I think they would have been, they would have needed, what do you call it, smelling salts and stuff, because there isn't a day, even though there's been a lot of upkeep to it now. It used to be just a rickety fence, no gate. You could go back there at any time. Now they're trying to stick to, specific times, and they put a privacy fence up between the cemetery and Delgado University. But you will still go through there, and any walk, you're liable to find just about anything, because it is still, that's mostly, provided by Save Our Cemeteries, the enclosure and the new gate and everything. But still, basically, in Holt, if you have, you're indigent, or you have very little money, and you could, with a death certificate, go there, claim a plot, and as long as you and your family keep it up, it's yours. If any graves that go to basically no upkeep, they eventually just crush everything that's in there. So at any given time, because it's families on a bobcat, or they get somebody who knows what they're doing with the bobcat, you can go walking through there, and there's teeth and jawbones and finger bones and hair. I mean, it's, one time I went there, and you're pulling along the road, there's a back part that has a really dramatic oak tree that had been struck by lightning, and another oak nearby. And this is known as the voodoo or the hoodoo cemetery for a reason, because a lot of people go back there and do voodoo. But once I got out of the car, I don't remember who I was with, and I just went to put my foot out of the car. I looked down, and there's a femur bone laying next to the road in the rocks, and I'm like, oh. And no, I think we've talked about this. No, I didn't pick it up. No, I'm not going to pick it up. Nobody should pick up anything in Holt Cemetery. I don't care.
Even in the remember when we went, they have a hole in the tree, and people would put bottles with notes, and they had a knife sticking out of the ground in the tree. You just don't touch them type of things. But the thing that I noticed over there, because none of the bodies, I would assume, would be embalmed, right?
Probably not. Mostly,
there was no smell.
No smell. Yeah. Well, I mean, it may be that there's local funeral homes. I have to say it's the dead that are in there are primarily Black, and it's always been known as a primarily Black cemetery, but not exclusively. But so I kind of get the feel of it's the same thing at this cemetery where they tried to bury this man. And so they have certain funeral homes that they prefer to go to. I really don't know, but I think the law of embalming, it's not against the law to ask that your relative not be embalmed, but I believe, that they I don't know if they're required. I don't know the law, but I'm pretty sure there's some sort of, it's got to be clean. I don't know. I guess we're not there when they're breaking up the bodies, because there would just be, rotten wood and the clothing and stuff like that. And I would imagine if like they put Aunt so-and-so in there and then a month later, Uncle somebody dies, they're not gonna, they try to do it adjacent and just put somebody on top of somebody else. Their coffin. This isn't to say that they're in no coffins, because they are, but the wood just breaks down so easily, and our soil is so wet, and the graves just sink, the little spots just sink, and it's poignant. It really is touching.
It's a poor cemetery.
I mean,
they use PVC pipe to make the rectangle of, to show where the person's body is. We've seen a boot sticking out on a tree limb.
A whole set of clothes laying on top of a cement slab. They had a whole set of clothes. Remember the grave with the different kind of rugs, carpet, and then paint cans holding that down. It's really upsetting. It's poignant. I mean, there's one that, like, when you go in the gate to the right, it's it's like, the broiling pan that you use for your oven that comes with the oven, and you lift the grate out. That was a headstone, and it really gets, people, tend to be getting a little voyeuristic with that, but it really gets upsetting, or, just kind of sad when you go around and you see the children's graves, so it fits everybody's conception of a creepy old burying ground.
There's no tombstones because they can't afford it.
There are some that are like, there's a couple of soldiers, and I think that those tombstones are like provided by the VA, by the veterans. Yeah. And so the ones that we see with the nice granite ones, and there's a couple, because not everybody that goes in there is poor necessarily, but some people might want to be buried with their other relatives that happen to be buried in holes, and so but along the side, I mean, I haven't been there recently, but I know they had the little hut. They have the little, where the security guard now, sits, and where the sextons, where they have, shovels and stuff for the use of people who are burying. They had a bunch of tombstones. You remember that? I think you were with me too.
That's right after the flood.
Yeah, and they didn't know where they went, and that is, I have photos of that, and that is just another, and then once, it was a, what do you call it? All Saints Day, November 1st weekend. And there was a woman, I think it was the same day I saw the bone. And, she was looking around. She had some flowers and she wanted to put them on a grave, but she couldn't find the grave. She was looking for what she remembered, but she couldn't find the grave. And the thing is, they may be improving the records of where people are buried, because everybody that dies has to have a death certificate. But that doesn't mean that what they put down to mark the spot is going to survive in the rain and the heat and, everything else that makes Louisiana hell in the summertime and even in the winter, so, but it's not unusual. Teeth smiling at you, skulls. And I know you remember a couple of years ago, there was a so-called pagan witch or whatever who was going to Holt and taking the remains and selling them online to practitioners who use human remains in some of their, their work that they wanted to do. She got in trouble. She got caught. But the remains were gone. So, we have pictures of it. And I remember one night when my daughter was at Delgado, she'd go in the evening, but at night it was dark. And so I'd pick her up, and we only had one car. And I was waiting for her, so I had to park along the little road by Holt Cemetery. So I was just looking, and I said, well, let me take my camera, actually a Nikon camera. I took a couple of pictures, and they were like dark. I mean, the flash went off, but it was like still dark, so I don't know what I was doing. And then I hit the button, and in front of me, I saw nothing but little orbs, just orbs in front of me, literally 3D in the darkness. The picture, it clicked or whatever. It took the photo, and then the next photo, the orbs were gone, and they don't show up in the photo that I took. But I saw them. They were right in front of my face. At which time, because I can sometimes be a big scaredy cat, I got in my car and I moved it. I'm like, I don't know, because they might be mad, me taking pictures at night and stuff, so I'm like, I got mud on my foot once, I stepped in mud on a grave and freaked out, because
I remember that.
They'll follow you home. That's how I discovered
there in the rain.
Cents. Well, I went there because some fool wanted to do some kind of interview or something like that. And I was crossing over a thing, and my shoes got stuck in the mud. And I almost fell. It was like these big floppy, I had to pull them out of this clay, and I was tripped out because I was going to leave my shoes there. I was like, I'm not going home. I'm not taking this into my car. I'm not going home with this on my shoe. So who are you going to call about voodoo? You're going to call a voodoo practitioner. And I'm like, help me. I can't remember, it's all this stuff. And she's cracking up laughing at me. And she said, 15 cents, leave it at the gate. And I was like, all I got is pennies. So I'm counting it out, So 15 cents was left at the gate, and I actually washed the mud off the shoes. I mean, people laugh at that and say, oh, you're a big occult and you're scared. No, I know what can happen, because
we know people that have taken things from the graveyard.
Well, and gone there, because that knife in that tree isn't there just because it didn't fall out of the sky. Somebody wasn't, cutting an apple and just accidentally left it there. Somebody went to that tree with the intent of doing some, spell, ritual, whatever you want to call it. And the knife was there for a reason. And as it turned out, that tree that had been hit by lightning was even more potent, because it is connected or syncretized with Chango, which is a male energy, or in voodoo, he's a loa. He has different names in Santeria, but Chango is the real vivacious, this masculine energy, enemy, masculine. Yeah, they're all enemies. No, so a lot of people were flocking there to do their spells and stuff, because it had burned that tree. But even before that, you find mayonnaise jars and all kind of stuff. And you can look as much as you want, but touching anything. So it's like, I don't know what somebody just did last night in the cemetery, and I'm going to go home with all of this wet mud on my feet. No, I don't think so. Nope, I don't want to drag that home. And that's a healthy respect for magic that works, the people that are doing it, and the dead that are helping them. So, it's like, nope, you can have my shoes. I did actually break a pair of sandals, and I did leave them there on one occasion. I just left them by the gate, which I would have been creeped out if I went home and they were like by my door, but I digress.
Yeah.
But this really put me in mind of that. And it's unfortunate. I mean, yeah, you look at the foot, and it's not really desiccated, unless that's bone that we're seeing, but I think that's like a board.
It looks like meat on that foot. Like, yeah, it's not skeletal yet.
Right. I can't even tell if it really looks dry or, or desiccated at all, but it looks pretty intact. So it leads you to think there was a recent burial. But again, whatever happened with this burial, not the grandfather, the new burial, but that guy, whoever that person was, ought to have been in some sort of a coffin even to start with. And because I say because the foot doesn't look as, skeletal in any way, like skin is exposed, you would think that there was a rather fresh coffin in there to contain him,
Unless they broke it, on the way down, but still wouldn't they see that if they broke a coffin?
Yeah, they should have saw that when they were digging
they were digging it. Yeah.
Yeah, if they did that. I mean, they should at least have, I don't know, shored it up, put the leg back and shored it up. I can't tell because there is something that's laying under his, like his leg. It looks like it might be a piece of wood. But I don't know about, in other states, but in New Orleans, historically, that's how we ended up with all of the oven vaults and the mausoleum, the mausoleums, but also the standing vaults that are so, characteristic of New Orleans and amazingly left standing by the stupid mayor that we had. The reason was because we have such a high water table. Most of the land where the original cemeteries, we're talking like St. Louis and all them, had been swampland. And in heavy summer rains or periods of of other flooding, like when the river or the bayous would rise, they just pop out of the ground, boop, 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 and float. Yeah. And the smell was atrocious. So that began the idea of we need a solution for this. And the oven vaults were constructed, stacked one on top of another. And they're so old in those particular cemeteries that really the very first one, which would be the bottom oven, the bottom one on the bottom, a lot of those have sunk into the mud too. And so it's still porous under there. It's still wet. And they would never allow a corpse into the ground itself in those cemeteries. It would have to be encased in something. And if you were sharing a grave, or you were opening it and somebody else was going in and you're a relative, they would probably want to put the remains like in one of those leather or plastic bags. Because I did see that. I went to visit my grandfather's grave in St. Louis number 3, and just behind him, apparently they had gotten it ready for a burial, and in the corner they had dug it all out, 6 foot or whatever it is, and in the corner was this bag. It wasn't like a garbage bag. It was like more like a heavy, like a corpse bag, I guess, or a heavy rubber. And it was neatly placed in the corner. I didn't see any bones, but they obviously went in and broke up the remains and probably, raked out the wood or, pushed it into the bottom to receive the new burial. But never have I seen anything like this. I've never seen a foot. I've seen their hands. The experience, I'll tell you this, the experience of a New Orleans cemetery, when you got to bury your relatives in there, your older relatives, you will come out and you will say, I don't care what the Catholic Church says, I'm getting cremated. I am not going in there. It's, the idea of worms eating you and everything. But, I had, unfortunately, the view one July of, an aunt that was buried, and they had to make room for, the new burial, which was my nanny, I think. And then her sister and her husband were in the vault. And there they were. They should have been in a metal casket. This was during the time when there was a lot of trouble with those big metal caskets that people were stealing, actually breaking in to steal the copper and everything. But there they were. There should have been a coffin or a bag in the back, but they were laying on the the slab of the vault itself. And then they put Nanny in, and then the guys, when everybody had left the grave, one of the caretakers came up and he took his 2 hands and he shoved her coffin back. And I almost passed out because I knew, at that point they went over the, over the side into the receiving vault. Yeah, I mean, I remember because the Nan had a pink dress on, and that's what I saw. My Uncle Vic had cufflinks when he was buried, and you could see that. That's what caught my eye.
Oh my goodness.
The cuff link. And then when your eyes adjust to the darkness, and I'm standing there, I was trying to get away to the back because it was so hot, get away from people. So I'm standing up. I'm the only one like standing a little bit above the crowd. That was a smart move, right? And so now I can see right in. And that's what did it. I mean, I saw their shriveled hands in the back. Their heads were like together. And I was like, that's not for me.
It's kind of traumatizing, especially if a child would see that.
It is. And I told my mother and my aunt that if they went back and opened that tomb, they would find there should have been those two should have been in one coffin. But somebody took that other metal. There was a bronze that went in there, and there was a copper, and somebody took the one that was already in there, and the other one that Uncle Vic was in. So they took two coffins, and then they put Nanny's metal one in there, and guess what? They went and took that out too. And they tell you, oh, we can't bust it up. My uncle on the other side of the family, when my grandmother died, his mother, he went back and he paid for the opening of the tomb, for them to open it. And he looked to see that her coffin was intact and they hadn't been tampered with. And he checked on his dad too, or my grandpa, who had died, after or whatever. He made sure. So, I don't know. People do terrible things. It's like, don't. But Holt and this, that's unnecessary. I mean, those poor people. They'll probably sue, though. You figure,
yeah.
They'll probably sue. It is very traumatizing, though, so that's probably a good lawsuit, on that one. But that just put us in mind of our lovely little burying grounds down here, I've seen people like rake through the remains to get stuff, and so I know how these people feel, especially because it's a relative that they've got to put down there. So nobody really wants to put their family in the grave and have a really stark reminder next to them, a memento mori, if you will, that pretty soon he's going to be in that condition. But hopefully, there won't be a foot on his grave or his coffin. So anyway, let me see. Our guest is in the queue. Miss Russell, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hey, okay. I'm Alyne Pustanio. I'm Bernadine's co-host, and yeah, Joe is telling us 3 times that you're in the queue. I think she's there for sure this time. 3rd try. So I'm going to introduce you by reading a little bit of your bio. Let me just open that on my and Bernadine, if you want to welcome while I'm looking.
Well, hello, Miss Lynn. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Awesome. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm wonderful.
Awesome.
Okay. Here, I've got the bio up, Miss Russell. Let me just pull a little bit, but we're going to really ask you, to kind of just tell us about yourself in a little bit. But I'll give a little bit of description for the folks. Oh, this computer.
Sure.
Middle-aged ladies and computers. That's me. So, and forgetting names of things. That's me. And it's taken forever. But your book is entitled The Wonder of You. And there's the, let's see. Okay, I've got the bio. I've got it. Okay, so now we're fine. Just hang in there. We're good. It'll get on track.
Sure.
Let's see. From the time Lynn's children were 2, 3, and 4, she was a single parent. And as an adult, she went back to school and studied social work. For 33 years, she worked counseling people, and 28 of those years was doing family counseling. Several years ago, Lynn was delighted to research 2,500 near-death experiences for Dr. Jeffrey Long. She was so delighted with the spiritual knowledge coming back that she wanted to tell everyone. Thus, she wrote a book, The Wonder of You, What the Near-Death Experience Tells You About Yourself. This book covers a very wide range of experiences and takes the reader through the different aspects of the experience to bring out the deep learning of spirituality. In addition, after over 20 years of doing workshops, Lynn has developed 2 workshops. One is called Near Death and Beyond, and the other is The Spirituality of Science. She explains that her purpose is to help people know how magnificent they are and show them the amazing role they play in creation. Thus, the spiritual workshop uses science to show participants the magnificent spiritual being we are. She's also written a book on the spirituality of science. However, it will be a while before this book is out to the public. So that's what we got. And we just want to ask you to tell us as much as you'd like us to know about yourself and your experience and how you came into this work.
Sure. I have been interested in well, not just near-death experiences, but spirituality most of my life. And so I started studying when I was in my teens. And so I've spent most of my life looking into this kind of thing. And I've also been interested, as you mentioned, in science as well. But as far as I went to NDERF, which is Near Death Experience Research Foundation. And I was on there to look up some information for another book I was going to write. And I was so thrilled that I just got stuck on that site. And then Dr. Long asked if anybody would volunteer to do the research with him. And I said, yeah, that's great. So that's how I got into it. And I was just so thrilled with what I was learning. So I just wanted to share it. But I originally had no intentions of writing a book on NDE until I got all this great learning. And I thought, oh, I have to go on with that.
Amazing. Go ahead, Bernadine.
Have you ever had a near-death experience?
Well, I had a tiny one. I'm almost embarrassed to mention it. It was so small. I left my body and I was in the tunnel and there was a guide with me, and I was immediately sent back. I didn't even get out of the tunnel. No fair. But anyway, this was years ago before Moody's book came out, and we didn't know what it was. And so I knew I had died, but I had no idea what had happened to me until I read Raymond Moody's book and understood a little bit more.
We love him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A long while ago.
Uh-huh.
So how did you die?
Oh, I was very, very sick. I was, and I had pneumonia and a pleurisy.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were in the hospital or at home?
No, I was at home in my bed. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I wasn't in the hospital. Otherwise, it would be recorded that, I had a death experience, or at least I was gone for a while. They don't exactly record that you've had a death experience.
Uh-huh. So once you come back in your body, did you just get up and call the hospital? What did you do?
No, as a matter of fact, I thought it was my imagination. Oh. I thought, I just couldn't, as I say, nobody knew anything about this. And so I just thought I was imagining it, or was hallucinating, because I had a high fever. And so I thought I had hallucinated it. And it wasn't until, as I say, I read others, and then I thought, oh, all right. So that was how it was. And actually, after that, I became well almost immediately. Not that, like I went to sleep, and the next morning I was fine.
Wow.
Did you find yourself coming back with like a gift or something? Because some people say when they do have a near-death experience, they come back and they're more sensitive to things.
Yes, that's true. Yes, I don't know if because I've always been sensitive. I've always had experiences all my life. So I don't know if I came back with more. I've certainly had experiences since then, but I don't know.
So you haven't had an out-of-body experience since then?
No. But I've had other kinds of experiences where I've known things that I shouldn't normally know, or I feel things about people. I can size people up pretty quickly, and those kind of things. And also, I've had messages come through, very clear, in words in my brain. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the NDE or whether I was already sensitive, as I say. So,
can you tell us about your work with Dr. Jeffrey Long?
Well, I both read the reports that people had sent in about their near-death experiences. I read those. I also contacted some through email, or I talked to them in person.
Oh, sorry, you will hear a dog until I get her out.
Okay. And I also talked to them on the phone. So it was wonderful. What I did was I took the information that they would give us and tore it apart, and it was like how many people saw the light or how many people went into the tunnel and that kind of thing. So I was putting them into categories.
Okay. And did you talk to any people that were in hospice?
No. But I did just lose not just, it feels like just, but I lost my daughter a year and a half ago. And she was in hospice. Yeah, thank you. And she was in hospice, and I felt that my knowledge of near-death experience really helped me to be able to deal with that loss.
Because you knew something was beyond death.
Yeah, well, I knew. Since I have done the research, I've done way more studying and way more growth and so on with it. And I know where she is, and I know the experience that she's had and how kind and wonderful and the love she's experiencing. So I know she's okay.
Good. And I guess with others that are that have gone on before her. I know that back in the 1920s, excuse me, there was a physician, a psychiatrist named Dr. Carl Wickland, and he wrote a book, again, excuse me, entitled 30 Years Among the Dead. And his the premise of the book was his research, his personal research had proved that the vast majority of the people that are committed to institutions, mental institutions, or, permanent palliative care, actually were suffering from attachment or possession by unknown entities or other entities, attachment of the dead. And even in cases where it was like multiple personality or, dissociative personality disorders, through his research and through the efforts of his wife, who was a trance medium, they discovered the real phenomenon of spirit attachment and the effects it can have on the living. And I'll just give like one example. They would, there was a woman that he worked with who said that every time she goes in the bathroom, she sees that woman looking at her. She follows her to the bathroom and what that woman was speaking as the attaching spirits. So I'm wondering if, like, through Dean asked you about coming back with increased spiritual perception. I'm wondering if you ever came across cases like that where the coming back into physical reality, they actually brought someone with them or something from the outlaw country on the other side.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened?
No, No, I didn't come across anything like that. What I did come across in that vein was that people would come back so completely changed from the person that they were, that they would change their name, they would change everything about them. You know, they didn't live the same life. And they would change their name. And there was one lady I talked to who felt that she was a walk-in. Mm-hmm. That happens sometimes. People feel that they're walk-ins.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking the one who wanted to change their total identity, that would be a good candidate for further research into that aspect of it. You know, there is a danger, I suppose, that while your spirit is, experiencing the ecstasy of, encountering your family, and then, are told for whatever reason you're pulled back or whatever, there is that danger that something's going to grab on, because they're just so clustered around the energy, the life energy of the earth. And they'll seek any way possible, basically, to get in, if that's their intention. And, not every spirit. I'm talking about a certain group of spirits, who are resisting the experience, the progression through the death process. So it would be interesting to know, how many of those are actually, basically recorded, because it's always been postulated, at least since Wickland's work. So that's very interesting to me. It's something that Bean and I are interested in because of the dangers that are attached to that. Go ahead, Bean. I know you've got
go ahead. None of the ones that I studied knew talked about that, so I don't have any information for you on that.
Right. No, that I was just asking to see how you felt about that. Go ahead, Dean.
Whenever you were researching and you did the 2,500 near-death experiences,
yes,
talking to these people, I've seen YouTube videos of people that had near-death experiences before, and some of them were really bad in life, like angry, depressed, just negative, things like that. And when they died, it changed them so much when they came back. It changed their whole personality. But some were, I would say, atheists. They didn't believe on the other side. They just felt when they died, and that was it. Everything was black and no other side. Did you come across anybody or people that were like that, weren't spiritual before?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I've met quite a few people who were atheists before they had their death experiences, and most of them would say, what am I doing still alive? What am I? And they were shocked, and that was quite interesting. My mother, by the way, was an atheist, and probably that's why I started studying spirituality when I was a teenager, because I was curious and I didn't know anything about it. And so anyway, after she died, two things happened. Number one, she appeared to her sister, who was also an atheist, and she called my name a number of times. I heard very clearly my name called, and I just figured she was saying, okay, I'm wrong. I got it wrong this time. But quite a few of them, the atheists, they have exactly the same kind of experience as people who belong to a church, or it doesn't seem to matter. All the experiences are very, very similar.
Wow. Can you explain some of those similarities?
Well, yes, I can. One of the things that I did want to say, though, is that we no two death experiences are alike, because they're as individual as we are as people. And what happens is that we create our own experience. And that's because we're connected with the source, and we're all one. And so that we have the power to create, and we create our own experience. So people who have negative experiences, they're creating that themselves because they think that's what they should be doing, or that's where they belong, or whatever. Some of these things, let me think now. Some of the things that people repeatedly came back with is that, okay, they could all they had to do was think about being somewhere, and they would automatically be there. They traveled by thought. They could see 360 degrees in all directions. People would go to the most common place that people went to was the garden, what I'm calling the garden. It could be a park. Some people call it a park. But it's, where there's water and trees and flowers, and it's all very different than anything we have. But one of the big things about that is that the animals and the flowers and the trees and the water all send love to them. They'll feel love coming back from, anything they're looking at. So that's sort of neat and different. I'm trying to think. I don't have the list in front of me.
What about the angels singing?
Yeah, one of the big things that people repeatedly, almost everyone says, is that they felt that they were a part of everything. And that everything was for them. Yeah, there was no difference between them. And that was cool.
Go ahead, Dean.
I've heard a lot of them say that when they crossed over, before they came back, they heard angels singing.
Yes, sometimes, yes, that's right. Some people do. Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to hear... I'm sorry, Dean, go ahead. I was just going to say, I want to hear about the negative experiences.
I was fixing to say that.
Yeah, you're going to say that too. I'm a Scorpio. I got to hear the half empty. So, but, it's interesting. It's interesting, Ms. Russell, that you're saying, that basically what we carry over there with us is the reality we create over there. Because some people are so dogmatic and so entrenched. And so, not necessarily evil or, whatever, but so entrenched in their own belief. And they don't really realize how that's shaping their reality here and how much baggage it is on the other side. But I do know that there are people like evil people here, criminals, or like just people who think they've lived a dissolute life and they know they're going to hell, who are resisting the passage, and then are shown or have been shown these, vistas of the reality of hell. Have you encountered that as well as the positive experience?
Yes. I have a chapter in my book on the negative experiences, and yes, people do have negative experiences. However, one of the things that I was surprised at is 2 points. Number one, all they have to do is think about being out. Whether they think about it from God or Jesus or angels or whatever, they'll be out instantly. So even if they're in the middle of this horrible experience, they just think about. One man was an atheist, and he was in this hell kind of experience, and he remembered "Jesus Loves Me," the song, and so he said that, and he was out just like that. So it instant out. The other point is that they repeatedly get told over and over that they have created this for themselves.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that is underscored in other traditions, other occult teachings. This is what you basically do. You create your reality. Your thoughts that you put out there, that you focus on, come back to you and materialize in your life. So it's like, you're preparing an atheist or an agnostic, but an atheist, let's say, who believes that there's just nothing, there's just empty space on the other side. I think they have some of the most jarring experiences, either positive or negative. And like you say, it changes their lives. But some people are just so, just not nice. They're, death doesn't improve these people, and they do everything that they can, even though they could, if they would look up or look around, they would be aware of the people or the spirits of the people around them waiting to help them there. But there is one thing that Dr. Wicklund talked about, and I'd like to get your take on that, is a spirit was actually describing how it is to be stuck in that sort of in-between space. And he was describing that there was other spirits, which he called people, attacking him or trying to attach to him. Like it was just this big crowd of, everything around him. And then he would say, no matter how far he ran or he hid, they would always find him. And he watched a little girl that he had actually hurt in life. So that was his hook. That's the reason why he didn't pass on, because he believed he couldn't be forgiven for that. They, basically they didn't tear her up, but they were, surging around her too. So, I wonder how you feel about that, even though they, you may be able to say, Jesus, take me from this. There's got to be some remnant of feeling about, how do you feel about that? Like we know there's some unhappy human spirits over there. So I
don't have anything like that in the ones that I really truthfully don't, and I am questioning this man's book, to be honest, but I haven't read it, so I can't pass judgment. But what I did have was one man was going up, and he was in the tunnel, and on the way up, he realized there were other entities or other spirits in the tunnel with him that couldn't go any farther because they were convinced that they didn't deserve to. And so they didn't, and that's about as close as I can come to. As I said, I had people who did have hell experiences, but all the ones that I studied did get out.
Right. Okay, Dean, go ahead.
Did you, in your research, talking to these people, did any of them mention like levels of heaven?
I have heard that. I don't know that. Yeah, it's possible because some of them would go directly to the light, and they'd be right in the light having a full experience, where other ones would not. They would maybe go to the garden or somewhere like that, and that's as far as they got. So it is possible that there are levels of development.
I've heard that whenever some people pass on, the reason why that there's no hate in heaven and negativity and all that is because they erase some of all these bad memories so that the souls are not sad anymore, or, worried about people down here.
Well,
so everything's happy.
They can see us and hear us and know exactly what we're feeling and thinking. So if you have a loved one that's passed on, they are very, very aware of what is happening to you or for whoever their loved ones are. And so it's a question you just asked me, and I was going to answer it. Sorry, I'm not good with two questions, and I interrupted myself there.
Dean, you want to repeat your question?
I don't even remember.
Oh no!
I'm pretty bad too.
Oh no!
I do have another question though. How do you feel about reincarnation?
Oh yes, it's an absolute. Yeah. Yeah, I do want to say one thing about what you were talking about before, because I have to remember it. One of the things that people repeatedly say, as I've just said, is that they feel that they are a part of everything. And from that, they feel that they are a part of the source as well. And so they come back with this very strong feeling of oneness and connected to everything. And so that changes them a lot, a huge amount, because then they realize that they are connected to that other person. And so there isn't very much, like there's no, the only difficulty that a person would have on the other side is when they have their life review, they have to look at what they've done and feel the experience that they gave to another. They become that other person and feel what it was like. So, but that's just taking responsibility for their actions.
Right. I've heard that that's not really a judgmental thing. It's simply a teaching, method of higher guides or higher spirits to, it's a path to enlightenment, and to discover whether or not what you have to work out when you go back. I have a question about, I have a question about children, the spirits of children. Have you, in your research, you probably have, met with or heard of children having their near-death experiences, and what were they like?
Well, basically, they're almost the same. They will go to, sometimes instead of a garden, they'll go to a playground. But they have their guides with them. They will meet up with their any loved ones that have passed before them. Everybody meets up with those, and so they will meet up with their guides. They'll sometimes see angels or beings of light, and then they're taken to a place where there's other children and they play.
Yeah, I have often heard. I'm sorry. I was going to say I have often heard that they're segregated, basically from the adults. Like there's a kids area. They can interact with the adults, but usually they keep the children. The children are together in a playground, or I've heard like an amphitheater type thing, and where they're singing and they're being taught to sing the song of the universe, etc. Because these are child spirits, but. I have heard that. I have heard that children are kept separate, yes. That seems to be the truth, but I don't know about an amphitheater. Well, some people, if I went to heaven, I don't know what I guess it would be like Iceland or something, because that's just me, I'd be like, yay, it's gray and gloomy forever, and I'm happy. But I've read a lot about it, and a lot of, people just, saying or worrying that there's a danger for children who pass on. But I've never, believing in Christ and believing in God, I can't really believe that God would abandon children to any kind of, negative experience, and expose them to negativity over there as well. So that's encouraged. Yeah, it's really encouraged.
Yeah,
and Dean, go ahead.
That's right. It's a very beautiful experience for the children.
That's great. That's good to know. Go ahead, Dean.
Have you heard anything about soul groups?
Yes. People will often see their soul group when they leave, when they go through. Some people don't go through the tunnel at all, but those who do, when they get to where they're going, they will see this group of people, and often they don't know who they are. I know them, but I can't think of who they are. And then it'll come to them that these are entities that they've had life experiences with in the past.
Wow. I heard you reincarnate, usually with the same soul groups, but they're different people in your life.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And also, but there might be one or two new ones put in there, so the group will change or grow.
There's always a catch, huh? Yeah, we're going to stick these two people in here that you don't know who they are. That's just me. That's, that's what I would get, Yeah, you can be reincarnated, but these two people, so I guess, I don't know. I'll get to the end one day and find out, but yeah, I'm being funny, but it's true. I've heard that too, that, you're not, the souls are having soul memory. Because I feel, that each of us as a spirit, is a separate being, and that we are, our spirits separate and endure forever. The souls that we carry that, that take the impressions of the things that we do and Sometimes they have to go and be like recycled. Sometimes they can't re-enter the life cycle because they've been in some, so many terrible situations, murderers or whatever you can think, that the soul, it has to go away. So before it can be like, absorbed again into the supernal, So, I mean, I've heard that a lot. And
that's true. They often will have a period of time where, but those who stay over there have a period of time where they recuperate, I guess, if you call it that, and just before they come back. They don't have to come back like right away unless they want to.
I don't know about no, I don't want to go back.
I don't want to.
Most people say they don't want to. Yeah, most people say that.
But I think they come to the realization that when there's a purpose to it, because I mean, and then they really resist going back in the near-death experience, right? I mean, I've heard a lot of people who know full well everything that they're leaving on Earth, but still don't want to go back there because of the overwhelming feeling of being where they are.
Most people don't want to come back. Not everyone. There are some who say, "Oh, I know I have to go back. I've got things to do." But most people will plead not to have to come back. And I just want to say back with reincarnation, that one of the things that I get people asking me quite often is that if they lose their personality, whether they're gone, but no, that stays. They always, the person that you are now will not disappear.
Right, because that's your spirit person. That's your spirit personality. So what people know as me, that's what they'll see on the other side. Restored even to full vigor, the vigor of youth, or, how you were at your happiest time in life. And, I have to believe all of this. I'm just sitting here. Yeah, I'm convincing myself. But that I hear that a lot. And, it's just, I guess it's something to look forward to. I don't know, but I ain't ready to go.
No, that's true. Yep. That's great.
Nobody really, I can't control when, the Lord's going to take me, but it's like, I'm trying to think of who I want to meet. Who's the first person you'd want to meet? Queen Elizabeth, the first Queen Elizabeth. That's interesting. Have you ever had anyone describe to you experiences of like that, like what would be a historical figure or a celebrity that they really wanted to see or something? Has that ever come up?
Not that I have found, no.
No, I guess it's just mind-blowing.
One of the things I want to mention is that two things. You mentioned one is that there is no judgment. And the other thing is that there's no genders on the other side. Even though you look and see yourself as a male or female, it doesn't have any connection. It doesn't matter. So if you hear people talk about NDEs and they're talking about judgment, then I question it.
Yeah, I would too.
And the same with doing things that are gender related, I would question that as well.
And a lot of people have that great fear of judgment. A lot of people thoroughly and completely believe that the minute they close their eyes and they're gone, they're going to be standing before the throne of God, which is not in keeping with Scripture, because Jesus himself said he does not know when the time is, and God has appointed one day to judge the living and the dead. So I have always had issue with that. And up until that time, when your spirit has learned, what it needs to learn, and the soul, has basically gone on to where either reunion with the supernal or into another life with your spirit memories, until that time, you're in your heaven. I've often said, I think one of my grandfathers loved to fish, but he didn't like it when my grandmother went with him, or when it was where she was nearby. So I bet he's fishing without my mama there. It's and he's probably in her, some part of reflection of him is in her heaven, just the way they want to be. And it sounds kind of goofy, but I've found that it's really true with people who are coming back saying, it's just like that. What you take over, it all goes back to the things you carry with you over there, just as you can put yourself right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but just to let you know that most people, I mean, maybe there are some who go to the negative place, but most people are surrounded by love all the way through, from the moment that they leave their body until they return, if they do return. The love is something that they are absolutely wrapped up in, this huge blanket of love.
Well, I know, I will say this. My dad passed away in 2015, and unexpectedly. I mean, it was kind of like an unexpected circumstance, but he lingered for a while. And the whole time he basically knew he was dying, and the doctors weren't, they said, well, there's really nothing we can do. He's 88, and his systems are basically shutting down, and he was scared. And he was a good man. He never harmed anyone, or, what, I mean, I'm sure there's things that he'd have to work out, but he was scared. And even though I know all about what we're talking about, different ways, and including our faith, it was hard to find something to reassure him with, so in hearing that love is, what he went into, that makes me feel a little better. And, I mean, even so, but I didn't really know how to, my brother stands there and he says, who do you want to see? Who do you want to see the most? Mama or papa, your mom or your dad? And he's like, my dad. And I'm like, stop. I just wanted to reach over the bed and hit him in the head and say, stop that, because he really is scared. I think he's just scared to go through the death process.
So it is a scary thing, because people who don't know, like you and I know about it, but a lot of people don't. So, it can be scary.
Is there a purgatory or a purgatorial state like our religion, my Catholic faith teaches?
Well, I'll tell you that I think I have not had anyone tell me about purgatory. However, I have had people who make that up for themselves if they think that that's what they deserve.
Yeah, that's it. And I've heard that. It's just like doing magic. If you're a magical practitioner on Earth and you do that, it's the whole thing of the thought and the mind, and in situations of that we've encountered of demonic attack or demonic attachments to people, it's the mind that they burrow into first before you ever even know about it. So, it's obviously we pass through those things of existence, to reunite with ultimately with the Creator. So, but still, there are people, and I know that there are ways to basically extend yourself. Like if you're a wily, let's say you're a magical practitioner and you want to defeat the death process, essentially what you want to become is a vampire. Basically, you want to live your spirit to stay attached to your decaying body, and as long as there's a piece of that, that you will continue. That's why everybody who says vampires are so romantic and all this, no, and you wouldn't want to meet that particular creature. But it's interesting that all of this is going on the other side, but yet you're talking about it being individual ecstatic experiences.
That's right. It's what we give to ourselves. Yeah.
So, like, you're part of the love, but you're also the love itself.
Yeah,
like you're part of it, and that's wild, especially in a world where there's so much hate and anger, and nobody can agree on anything. That would be heaven. That would be heaven. Go, Dean. You got a question?
Have you ever had anyone that died with other people? They came back, the other people died, they actually died. Did they see the the other person's spirit leave their body and go where it had to go, or were they just alone in their journey?
Okay. Most of the time they're alone in their journey, but they do sometimes see the other person while they're in passing, kind of thing. And oh, hi, I'm staying and you're going. All right, bye. That kind of thing. And that doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen, yeah.
Yeah, like in groups, people that hate to say it, but like an explosion, but one person lives and the rest go. Do you see their spirits leave?
That is like the 9/11 situation. Right. All those souls passing. I've just when people talk about the rapture, and it's usually fundamentalists, who do that. But when they say, oh, the rapture is going to come and we're all going to be sucked up, the righteous. When a building goes down and 4,000 people die, in it, I think that's the rapture. Where I always pointed out, like these planes that go, and they go into the sea and 300 people have died. That's the rapture. Where did all those souls go? So Dean raises an interesting point. What if they all die? Do they all arrive together? I mean, there's no other way. Like at a train station.
Okay, at any point in time throughout right now, this minute, there are people dying everywhere in the United States, and so in the southern United States where you are, and so there are people dying right now, and they don't see each other, unless they might see each other if they know each other, but that's about it. So not usually. Usually people have very individual experiences that are all theirs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I guess if you want to see them, you would see them. It's like your family or whatever, or something like that.
Sure. Well, the family is usually there. If you have family over there, when you leave your body and arrive to wherever you're going, most of the time, your loved ones are there waiting for you and your guide, and sometimes you'll see angels or you might see a being of light.
Are there situations where a child would die, let's say a toddler size, 2 years old maybe, but when a family member of that child finally passes to the other side, see the child in a little more grown up, maybe a little girl instead of a toddler? And I have a reason for asking this, because my father would, in months preceding when he got sick, he kept saying that he saw a little girl would come and sit on his bed, and more than once she told him, you're going to die, and it didn't bother him. And then once when I passed his room, because I lived with him to care for him, he was talking to a child. He was talking at the height of a child, and he was smiling. Now, it turns out that he had a sister that died, and her high chair fell down. This was in the 1920s, so nobody really knew any better. She hit her head and died of a head injury about 2 weeks later. But a toddler size could not communicate with my dad. It would just have to stand there. So I'm wondering if there's a way, for them to actually grow into a spirit that could interact as, sort of a comforter, or, at the time of passing or something. Have you ever encountered that?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, people often see little babies that have passed, and they are older and able to communicate and pass messages down. So that's yeah.
It didn't dawn on me until actually fairly recently, because I went over, in my head, and I was like, who could he be talking to? Maybe an angel. And he has said, like when he was sick and in the hospital or had procedures and he'd be coming out of anesthesia, he said there's a blonde-haired girl that was constantly with him. And he wasn't afraid of him. But then he would also say he saw an actor walking in the hallway. I mean, because of the anesthesia, he was kind of hallucinating, that Samuel L. Jackson was walking in the hallway. But he kept saying, who's that girl with the blonde hair? And I told him, you're going to laugh at this. I said, do you recognize her? He says, no. I said, is there anybody you recognize? He says, no. I said, okay. Because if he recognized anybody, it was time for him to be gone. It was like, because they do come get you, or it seems like they come to get you, but they're there and you're passing.
Yep.
And we've experienced that in our family specifically.
Yeah, that's very common for someone to be there to greet you when you're leaving the body, or even before you leave. Like when people, like your father, it's not unusual for someone to be there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad, because I know how afraid he was. And I knew he would find comfort, but it still stays with you, because you're left behind and you're hoping, that he was, because he was a simple man, he was confused and he was afraid.
Yeah.
And, to the idea of comfort, which I knew he would find ultimately, it's just that passing through. So, Dean, I'm going to pitch it to you. Go ahead.
As a paranormal investigator, I've been doing this for a very long time. How do you feel about free will and spirits that decide to stay earthbound?
Mm-hmm.
Versus crossing over.
I know that does happen, yes, but I don't understand it, because it's so beautiful there. So why would they stay here? But they do. They do.
Unfinished business, different reasons, and some don't know they're dead.
Well, that could be. I can tell you about a couple of experiences of people who stayed down. One was a man who died in the hospital, and before he was brought back, he was wandering the hospital. So, and other people go to their loved ones, and they'll go home and see their parents and see their family. Some people will just, most people wander the hospital until, not most, but the people who stay at the physical level will just stay at the hospital level. But anyway, this particular man I was telling you about he went into the children's ward for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, he found a baby there who was suffering really severely, in great pain. And nobody could figure out what was wrong, but he knew what was wrong. So when he came back, he was able to tell them, what was wrong with this baby. And they went and checked it out, and it was right.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a cool experience. Another one is a lady who she was hit by a car. She flew out of her body when she was hit. As a matter of fact, she was out of her body instantly. And so she followed her body while it was being put in the ambulance. And that happens quite a bit, by the way. People that follows the ambulance. Anyway, this particular ambulance got into a car accident, and the attendant that was in the back with her was a woman, and she lost her ring. And she was really upset because the ring came from her mother, and she wanted to, it was very important to her. Anyway, when a few days later, she went and visited this woman, the person who was ill, and hit by the car. And now she's recuperating, and she told her about the car accident, about losing her ring, and about how she got to the hospital after the car accident. So she had all the information.
And she got her ring back?
Yeah, the woman, she told her where the ring was.
That's wild. That's wild. Well, I can tell you, Bernadine brought it up as, paranormal researchers or, occultists, you different traditions, but we're also obviously the subject of our work is ghosts, that's the starting point. There's other spirits, and hospitals are one of the most cluttered with ghosts, places.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for you to say that, when the man went into the nursery and saw the baby in distress, I thought you were going to say that he jumped in, because in a lot of cases that happens, where they will suppress the actual spirit, of the child, and basically just jump in because they want to live again, And there was a report of a physician who did that.
That's a walk-in, isn't it? Isn't that what they call
a walk-in? But then there's, I mean, if it's an infant, we have found that they can basically suppress the actual personality, at least through childhood. Yeah. And so what you have there is your child, but it's somebody else's personality until it becomes old enough, the personality, the spirit of the child, to fight back against this. And then in that case, you begin to get, according to what we've seen, split personality disorder. And that's when that sort of manifests. But hospitals are, because, there could be a woman having a baby on one floor and somebody dying on another floor, and somebody being brought near dead into the emergency room. So especially ones that didn't expect to die that day or whatever, they usually are attracted to the light of the living, and they want to stay attached to that light, So I'm just...
But what I have found is that it's so beautiful. The feeling of being out is so beautiful that most of them don't want to come back. And as I said before, they fight not to have to come back. So I've never heard that. I mean, I've never heard that kind of thing happen.
It does. Well, I know you've never heard it, but we have encountered it, and it's well, it's terrible. It's it's a terrible thing to do, and it takes a while to show itself sometimes. And
I wonder why they would want to come back in a
I guess
like. What I'm saying is, because it's so beautiful there, why would they want to, why wouldn't they want to stay?
Because some people are so attached. What I have found, and we have found, is that some people are so attached to the earth, to their addictions, not necessarily drugs, but food, sex, gambling, physicality, all the things that come with being a physical body. These are things that will hold the spirit there. And long enough, in some cases.
I wonder if that's people that do reincarnation like right away, and then the child remembers the reincarnation because, like their past life, they remember it because it was so close to the last life.
There are cases like that where the child recognizes that something's in them, or they have the experience imprinted on some part of their lower consciousness. But these are deliberate attempts to not die. These are, they don't want to pass on. They want to join the rest of, whatever. And I'm just about to ask you about the negative too. They do anything they can to stay connected, because let's say there's a heroin addict. I'm sorry, my dog just came in. There's a heroin addict, and they die of an overdose. They linger around other addicts. They want to vicariously be able to feel that high again. And there's no reincarnation. These are people that won't leave. And they're so long out there that they're so devolved. You can't recognize the spirit as human eventually over eons, and that's what gives us the devils that, we encounter. That's a true thing. And just as it is that you have soul memories, of the past life. I myself do, and I think Dean too. But go ahead, Dean. What I wanted to say, what about the devil? What about evil?
I have had no experience with that at all.
Mm-hmm.
No, nothing.
Because, he's there, or, it's there. But I think, that God probably, is enough to drive it away. I get, that's kind of like a real basic way of saying God's all powerful. But go ahead, Dean. We have about 5 minutes left.
I have one more question. On most of your cases, have you found that they were angry when they got pushed back into their body because they felt the pain and the heaviness?
Yes. Yeah.
I would be pissed.
Yeah, I did a talk once. I did a talk once, and after my talk, a lady came up to me and said, and she was angry, and she said, "I'm just putting in time. I'm just waiting for this to be over with." So whatever she came back for isn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, and that's what people find when they stick around. That's how we other, generations encounter them as spirits. And it's a sad thing, especially an actual intelligent spirit that is like connected to a particular place. I don't know, a cathedral that's no longer there, or, something that seems residual, but it is intelligent, because, there's a lot out there, good and bad, and there's, it's
a lot of questions, aren't there? Things that we don't understand yet. And
it sounds wonderful, but
yeah.
I can say I'm still not ready to go yet. I'm even less ready, because you always think, that somebody's going to go and send me right back, or you're going into the timeout chair, so. Which is,
but you see, I think that's a lot of our own thinking.
Yeah, that, and I would carry that over if I was still believing it at that time. It's like, oh my God, oh no. So I'm not looking forward to it, though. The closer I get to it, I was like, when I was 20, I was like, what? Yeah. But now it's like, it's a very real thing on the horizon. Which Joe has not given us any clue here yet. But Dean, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I have like people that I know, and maybe you have this, in your family, but sometimes people, like, for example, my mom and my sister, I always tell them, I say, y'all, you argue like y'all were married in a past life. In a soul group, that may be true, correct?
Yeah. Well, it's possible, I suppose. Yeah, it could be. I mean, with reincarnation, as we've already mentioned, people do take different roles in the next life. So that could be, yeah.
Well, I know of a woman who believed, I don't know whether she was ever regressed, but she believed that in her previous life, she had killed her parents. And that's why her life was so miserable in this. And I told her about the soul group, and basically how families, some new ones are added, like you say, but they basically travel together. And she just wanted to commit suicide. Like the idea of her. And I told her, I said, you know what, you may have done that in life after life. So you need to resist the urge to avoid this, and you won't see your family anymore. I mean, you might, but it'll be worked out, at least that part, so. But anyway, we've got like 2 minutes, Miss Russell. Is there anything, you have another book that's coming out, and where, if anyone wanted to get in touch with you, how would they find you?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Lynn Russell would do it. Lynn K. Russell. Make sure to put the K in, because there's so many Lynn Russells. So Lynn K. Russell in Canada would be great. Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
And I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm G+ and Instagram.
Good. I'll go find you and hook up with you. Do you post like news and stuff, or like, I don't know, somebody's new, do you like give examples of death experiences?
No, I put it in thoughts for the day and that kind of thing, and sometimes I put science in because I love science.
Oh, we didn't even really get to talk about that. We hope that you'll come back, and then we could go into the science part of it, because scientists, or scientism as a religion almost, that's our biggest obstacle to anything spiritual. But you may have found that it kind of supports it. They get kind of screwed up when they say, oh well, you just proved a supernatural, you proved something paranormal, with your research. I don't think they can handle it, so. But we would love to have you back again, Miss Russell.
Thank you. That's very nice of you.
Let us know when your new book comes out. We'll have you back.
Yes.
Yeah. That'll be a while, but yes, that would be nice.
Well, again, thank you, because you actually made me feel a little bit better. A lot better, I'm just hoping I'm worthy of it. All right. Well, we're gonna sign off here with you. Thank you again, and stay in touch with us on your book and everything.
Thank you, Miss Russell.
Thanks for having me.
Good night. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break here, and after we come back, we'll roll. mash this topic up a little bit. You're listening to the Supernatural Substation on the United Public Radio Network, and we'll be right back.
You're clear, Gus.
Yay!
Yay.
5 minutes.
Well, oh, good, because I have to take a ladies' room break. I'll be right back.
Okay.
What's new?
Hey, Joe.
What's up, sweetie?
I have the rest of the year booked.
Don't you like when you do that? It's always fun to do that. When my wife and, first a friend of mine used to do all the booking. They'd book me out sometimes 2 years. I was like, Lord. And I had to make them kind of start it after a while. I made them start giving me 1 week a month because, you never know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then I took it over. I'm lucky if I book it out more than a month in advance. What the hell ever. We do so much specials and stuff that it's hard to book in advance anymore.
Yeah. I was kind of wondering about, I didn't book anybody for the Christmas weekend because it's like a couple of days before Christmas whenever we have the show. So,
Christmas Eve is Sunday, right? So I think Christmas is Monday. So yeah, Saturday, Friday would be beginning of Christmas weekend. That weekend, see, a lot of times on weekends like that, we don't do anything because
it's the 22nd.
Yeah, it's a long holiday weekend. Everybody's gonna get in Friday.
Shopping.
Yeah, shopping. People out, doing holiday things. Same thing for New Year's. It's hard to do it because usually for New Year's, what I do for my shows is just do a yearly recap, because anything else is a pain. And getting guests this time of year is hard. Like Halloween falls on a Tuesday this year. They should change the date of Halloween from the 31st to whatever Sunday or Saturday, so it always falls on a Saturday.
That would be nice, yeah.
Yeah, it always falls on the last Saturday in October. That's the way they should do it.
What?
Halloween.
Oh.
It should always fall. Yeah, it should fall on the last Saturday.
It's a season. It's a whole season.
Come on, it falls on Tuesday. But it falls on a Tuesday this year. Come on.
What? So what?
They're still going to celebrate the weekend before.
Yeah, but most of the
just
world
longer time to celebrate.
No, because people don't want to go out on Monday night because they got to work Tuesday morning. They don't want to go out Tuesday night because they got to work Wednesday morning.
Then they have to bring their children trick-or-treating.
Yeah, it should be a weekend holiday. Make it a Saturday or Sunday, and just like Thanksgiving falls on the third Thursday.
You would never get that. You would never. I mean, even though it's kind of like recognized, you'd never get that as like an official American holiday or a day off. That would be good.
You don't have to give a day off, but it should just be a weekend because it's a kid's holiday. It should be on a weekend. It's not just kids. No.
I
know that, but it's originally a kid's holiday. Well, no, originally it was something else, but it turned into a kid's holiday, and the kids should be able to enjoy it. So should adults.
We start celebrating in September,
Well, shoot, all year round. Have you seen my tongue? Made in Korea. Made in China.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like the doll from hell or the baby doll, whatever. You gotta stop me, Dean.
We may see Annabelle there.
Oh yeah, Annabelle. Hey, you know what? Okay, so let's segue here. Yesterday, I went to see The Dark Tower, and it was good. It was really good. It was entertaining. It wasn't trying to be this big, heavy, occult and all this, because I usually avoid Stephen King. He's a great writer, but I don't enjoy reading him. And primarily because you'll be into a story, and he's from Maine, and he usually sets that up as the scene. It's a non-existent town in Maine. And you'll be reading along and really into the story. And then he'll say something like, I don't know, that only people in Maine, in a certain part of Maine, know what it means. Some colloquialism that will suddenly just spoil the whole thing, right? At least for me, it's like I'm into the story, and then you read that, and like you're 3 sentences down, you're going, "What the hell is that? What does that mean?"
Was he in the show? Because every one of his shows, he plays some part.
No,
he was not.
He wasn't. No, there were, but there were other things. There were like visual references to some of his other stories and stuff like that. But if there was, maybe if I see it again, I'd be able to pick up on that. But I don't think so.
Sometimes he plays like, the clerk in a store.
Yeah, he likes to do that. Like in The Shining, he was in the second Shining, the one that they adapted for TV, I think. He was the band leader. Or maybe it was the first one. I don't know. Me and Stephen King, it's just, I like certain things. I am really looking forward to it.
Yes.
I don't think you'll be disappointed because I just read an article yesterday that the guy, who is it? His name is Bill Skarsgård. I believe he is the brother of the guy that played on True Blood, the blonde-haired vampire. Those are all related Skarsgård. They're like Swedish actors, or their dad is. But this guy said that he was in character and getting ready for the scenes, and that sometimes, that at some point in scenes where he was fully and completely it, he made the kids cry. I mean, kids actually broke down and cried and ran away from him. So they have to do the scenes over and over. Wow. Which is, I think that bodes pretty well.
Great actor.
If I give it my stamp of approval, I've already seen the trailers and I think it's going to be great. But then he said, after it was certain that, they didn't have to shoot anymore, he got all the makeup off and everything. And he was like, look, it's only make believe, because he's nothing like, the character that he's playing. Obviously, he's a real nice guy, but he looks 100% better than Tim Curry did. I know a lot of people like the original, the miniseries one where Tim Curry was it, but this guy's got him beat by miles. Just the creepy look and all. And so, yeah, Dark Tower had Matthew McConaughey.
Really?
That's it right there. Period. Matthew McConaughey. Period. So I enjoyed it. And the other actor was Idris Elba, he's English and he's a black actor, and he was the voice of the tiger, I think, in the Jungle Book, the live action Jungle Book. They were great. He played the gunslinger, and McConaughey played basically the shadow man or the dark man. And it never was like, he's definitely the devil or anything. He was just a bad guy who couldn't be killed. So it was like maybe but his name was Walter. I don't think the devil's name is Walter, necessarily. No. I'd be kind of disappointed. Hi, I'm Walter Satan, but but it was good and it kept moving and I liked it. So, which is unusual, like I say, for me, but I think it's going to do it for me too. And then Annabelle, like you said, the creation, which you tagged.
I've seen the trailer. Yeah,
I've seen a couple of them, and now they're calling it the Conjuring universe, right? Which means that James Wan, who is like a master at horror now, I mean, we've had masters like Alfred Hitchcock and all these other ones, Romero and all. This guy's a master. The Conjuring universe, which means that somewhere in there's got to be an Amityville. There's got to be an Amityville horror,
They're gonna do a remake one day.
But if he does it, it's like this remake of it that I'm looking forward to. But anyway, we're talking about Halloween weekend, and we usually talk about the Gulf Coast Paracon. And about this point in the show, I know that I think it's August 19th, this coming weekend, maybe next weekend, or maybe next Saturday, where the SPARS team, SPARS Paranormal, has their Meet the Spirits of Beauvoir. The Gulf Coast Paracon is held at the library at Beauvoir, which is the last home of Confederate President Jeff Davis. And it's a two-day event, but the leading up to it are these weekends of investigating the location with the SPARS team. So there's one more before the actual convention. It's a good convention. It's close for people who live in Louisiana, maybe in Alabama, other parts of Mississippi. It's close. We'll be there. And we'll be talking about the occult, and we'll have other stuff. Hey, buy my books. Well, but we'll be there that weekend. And I think we're talking on a panel about the occult, which would be fun. It's always fun to talk about what I know about and not have these subjects just thrown at me. But so that's coming up. That's in September, I think the 22nd, 3rd.
22nd through 24th.
Right. So it's our vacation. So, and we will be doing that weekend. We will be doing the substation from there live. Wow.
Seems like we were just there.
Yeah, it does. And we'll figure it out. We're going to do a Facebook Live and also the broadcast live. So we'll figure out how to do all that and just go with it. That should be fun. And if we survive that, there'll be Facebook Lives coming up too. I think we should do next year. We were talking about, right, being we're going to put something else onto the calendar. I think we should just do like a road trip.
Yep.
Could just see it, what's that noise? Is your tire going to fly off? My gosh.
Don't jinx us.
No, I'm not going to jinx it. No, I mean, your car is good to go. But that last time, I mean, God was with us. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
90 miles an hour going back from Mississippi to Louisiana. It's like, and your axle.
Your front falls off. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's right outside. Oh my God. See, there is a God. At least there's a purpose for us,
Oh, yeah. We got to ride in a big record truck with this big guy.
I don't even remember. Oh yeah, and we went to Walmart and see. I mean, we should get a GoPro and do Facebook Live stuff with that. That would be great. And just whatever, turn it on. It's reality. It's like live PD. We'll have to think of a live whatever. I've often thought of that, putting it on while I'm driving and
on the road paranormal.
Yes, at least nobody's asking us to ghost hunt naked or anything.
Oh, that's true.
So, and Halloween's a big weekend. We were just talking with Joe over the break. He is all for making it a fixed holiday. It's got to be and it's not going to work, Joe, because it's got to be the 31st of October, no matter what day it falls on, because All Saints Day is the 1st of November, and I don't think Pope Francis is going to change that. So, nor do I think
he said it falls on a Wednesday this year or Tuesday.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're a witch, a practicing Wiccan or neo-pagan or a real witch, you don't care if it's a Monday, Tuesday, or whatever. You're going to go out and do your ritual. I mean, they're planning if it falls on whatever day, these people that work, and need time off, they're doing what they've got to do to go do it, so.
Didn't I hear something about an eclipse coming?
Yes, that's this month. I think it's on the 21st or the 24th. I'll have to check into it. So it's apparently going to be a very significant one too. Primarily because a lot of the United States, like a whole swath across coast to coast, the middle of the United States, is going to be able to see the full eclipse. In our area, we're going to see partial, and above that, places above that, but it goes right across America, and so there's a lot of people putting a lot of energy into pondering what it actually means. It's also connected to. This particular eclipse is connected to some sort of one of the Jewish holidays, and it also is significant for Islam and some other faith. I don't know, but I don't know. Anytime the sun is blocked, it's the end of the world. Some of these people that are running around like the sky is falling, this is going to be it. This is the end, and they're running around with their hands in the air going, "Oh my God, the eclipse!" I don't know. I think it's significant. Maybe it's a wake-up call for this country, you know, to really understand what the darkness is, you know,
Right.
because they don't seem to know it here. They don't seem. We are so far off the path. I mean, I'm not going to start a, you know, a political rant or anything of the sort, but you know, some people just need to be scared. Maybe we need to have a near-death experience as a nation.
All at one time, and we can see each other.
And there are people, and we know who they are, who probably run out and throw rocks at the moon, you know?
Yeah.
Hunter-gathering and, you know, throw rocks at the evil moon. Or the sun, I'm sorry. The moon covering up the sun, you know? Oh, it's covering up the sun, it's dark.
And I'm sure there'll be people doing rituals that night too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what they're going to. There's people trying to do rituals to kill the president, you know, trying to make, you know, do all this. I mean, I don't know. You and I know that when you do stuff like that and it doesn't happen, it's because it wasn't meant to be. And so therefore it's negative and it wasn't meant to be. So guess who it's going back to?
The person that did it.
You know, right. You can hate Trump, but, you know, you're going out there trying to induce spirits to kill him and all this other stuff or get rid of him and all. Well, that's not going to happen. Really. It's unrealistic. So who's going to own what you did? You. So your life could get screwed up because you don't like a man who's only going to be around here for 4 years probably. So, you know, but yeah, there's all kind of hoot and hollering going on and, you know, oh, and then the worldwide ghost hunt coming up at the end of September. Yeah, that's the end, the 30th, I think, of September. Yeah, let's all get in the groove, you know, and start investigating.
No.
I tell you what, I wonder, and I want your opinion on this. How many people you think are going to go to a graveyard because they don't have a place to, you know, to investigate?
A lot,
right? It's free. You can go in, you can sneak in, you know, and they know what graves, or some abandoned place, you know, that's probably high on their list too. Trespassing, for sure, in order to participate in this. But, you know, exposing themselves to who knows what. It'll be,
and maybe even those that are not participating in that will do it anyway, just to see if, because they have a mass investigation, if they'll get more evidence or activity.
Now you talk about practitioners and people that do magic. That would be something, like if I was one of those people and I did, you know, certain kinds of magic, that would be a lot of energy to use.
Right.
That they're just putting out there and something is going to suck it up. So they, you know, people don't realize it's because they always go back to, not everyone, but, you know, some ghost hunters, they always go back to this default that they can debunk this or that, they can disprove this or that. They're skeptical, so it doesn't matter, you know. So
it matters.
Of course it matters. We don't believe in it anyway. So if, you know, if something happens, so what? And even if they get evidence, they don't want to admit that they got it. But yeah, it rings a little hollow, you know, when, you know, you've got people losing everything in their lives and their lives. We know of people who have died, you know, I mean, everybody does. Some of them very
meet people all the time that say, well, I don't believe in that. And I tell them, just because you don't believe in it doesn't mean it does not exist.
Right. And it believes in you, because you're going to basically take a Q-beam, like you're on a boat, and shine it into the darkness, shine it into the lower etheric, and see what comes out. You know, they see a light, they're going to crawl toward it. And everybody says, why? You know, I mean, I'm sure people say, oh, why do they always see it? Because people are stupid. Because people think they know crap that they don't know. Because people think they know how to get out of situations that they have no idea, that they've never experienced before.
They start things and don't know how to
stop it. They open things.
Close it.
Don't know how to close it. And that means one thing for certain, there's going to be paranormal investigations going on for a long time. So, but anyway, we've come up to the end of it. So Bernadine, tell them where they can write to you or get a real paranormal investigator.
You can write to my email, Bernadine, BERNADINE, @lspr-society.com.
Bernadine and LSPR are on Facebook as well. Bernadine is with me on Facebook on the Supernatural Substation page. We maybe have a subpatient. Anyway, the Supernatural Substation is on Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram. Bernadine is on all of those too. I am on all of those too. It's AlynePustanio.net. If you want to buy my books, talk to me, get in touch with me, say something mean, no, whatever. Okay. But that's where you'll find me, or on all the other social media platforms. Also, stay tuned for Miss Kathy Bilski, Quantum Leap, Let's All Get High. And then later at 2 a.m. tomorrow morning is Terminus, and we're going into the Elsewhere. So I think you'll like it. Tune in on uprntalkradio.com. This is the Supernatural Substation signing off. United Public Radio Network, part of the iHeart Network. Have a great weekend. Say goodbye.
Night, night.
Get a brain this weekend. Have a good one, folks. Good night.
You're clear, guys.
All right. I'm tired.
Okay. Yeah, I'm out of here. I got to get up early in the morning, go to a wedding.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Don't you ever stay home on Saturdays, girl? Damn. You worse than me.
She runs the streets all the time. All right, G.
Night.
I'll talk to you soon. All right, Joe.
Everything's good. Why I'm not hearing your song for some reason. Oh, there it is. Okay. I was like, what the hell? Everything else is good, girl. Go enjoy the weekend. Have some fun. Stay out of the fucking rain.
And out of that freaking city.
Yeah, I mean,
A policeman stopped.
Yeah, it was the lady parked next to me.
I called my wife.
My dad got up in the middle of the night.
My neighbor helped me out.
I called a tow truck.
Anyone can jumpstart your car, but for free installation and $10 off Duracell Ultra car batteries, there's no one like Batteries Plus bulbs.
I'll install it myself.
I'd like you to do it.
For store locations, offer details, and limitations, visit batteriesplus.com.